Hello everyone! Have you ever seen some incredibly interesting stuff on the internet and immediately rushed to share your discovery with a friend? Perhaps something like that happened to all of us. After all, there is an infinite number of amazing things and phenomena in the world, and thanks to social networks, we can take a look at them. Ready to be surprised? Then watch the video to the end to learn a lot of new stuff. For example, why corn comes in different colors and how acoustic levitation works. But before that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Let's get it on. Perfect roast. Do you know what this is? That is a gyroscope. We won't tell you how exactly it works because that would require several videos to explain. Let's just say that this mechanism, invented only in the middle of the 19th century, has multiple applications, from the production of all kinds of toys like yo-yos or spinners to geolocation systems, though the gyroscope has definitely not been used in the culinary industry. After all, this idea sounds absurd. What use could this device possibly have there? Well, the owners of this place would disagree with you. Thanks to their unique know-how, they not only attracted a bunch of curious customers to the restaurant, but also allegedly found a recipe for the perfect roasting of meat. According to local chefs, thanks to the gyroscope's rotation, the meat remains juicy and gets roasted evenly from all sides. Seems like it's time for lunch. Magnetic dance. In the modern world, art is no longer only about marble sculptures and oil paintings. There are all kinds of artists and works today. Take, for example, Eric Mespler's ferroflexion pool. Can't seem to understand what's going on here? We'll explain everything now. The artist was inspired by the invention of an engineer from NASA. In the 60s, he tried to figure out how to move fuel around the engine in zero gravity and invented the concept of a ferrofluid. It implied adding magnetic nanoparticles to the liquid and controlling them using a magnetic field. Mespler loved the idea, and he decided to apply it to one of his works. This is how the ferrofluid pool came to be, which creates reflective silhouettes of a viewer's moving body. A total of 320 magnets react to the movement. And this, by the way, is not the only installation where the artist uses such a clever trick. The funny thing is that in the space industry, ferrofluid proved to be useless in the end. After this, no one can claim art and science are incompatible. Alien-looking corn. We bet that you thought that it wasn't actually real corn, but rather some very unusual candies. Well, quite a plausible theory. Though, what you see is actually a truly unique variety of cereal grain. American farmer Carl Barnes created this rainbow corn at home. He called the unusual variety Glass Gem. In fact, the farmer is not a pioneer in this field. Long before him, colorful cobs were grown by the Indians who used to live on the territory of the American continent. Being a descendant of the indigenous peoples of America, Barnes used their legacy to bring unique corn back to life. Though Native Americans use rainbow maize for arts and crafts like making beads, not as food. There's a logical question though. Is this corn edible? Certainly, but only in a certain form. For example, making popcorn out of this maize is a great idea, but you shouldn't boil it, since the cob consists almost entirely of hard starch. Well, you can also just hang it in your summer house as a decoration. All of your guests will definitely love it. Unusual nails. Who said that manicures are for girls only? In Japan, men also often do this beauty procedure, though not for the sake of fashion, but for work. Their nails look quite unusual, to put it mildly, more like small toothy saws. Why did they need to do this to their own fingers though? Turns out that such unusual care is part of the traditions of Japanese textile masters from Nishijin, which date back to ancient times. The ridges on the nails help men separate the strands of thread and create real masterpieces of weaving art. Swing for power. People nowadays can't imagine their life without a smartphone. So when the smartphone suddenly turns off right in the middle of shopping, we all start panicking. How do you tell your friends where you're supposed to meet them, or find your way to the right place? And finally, what will you do during a boring subway ride? In short, it is quite obvious that any decent shopping mall or other public facility must have a charging station today. Some of them get really creative though. For example, they install a special swing that generates energy with each movement. As a result, you get positive emotions and fast recharging of the gadget without harm to the environment. Paper sculptures. A typical office is not a place where you can really stand out from the crowd. Computers, pens, notepads, and paper stickers to write down important memos are all just the same. But believe us, even stickers can be considered a work of art. One Japanese company thinks so too. It produces unique blocks of stickers called omoshiroi. Here's how it works. As you use the stickers, a mini sculpture emerges, which can then be used as an elegant table decoration. The sculptures are very different. You'll find masterpieces of traditional Japanese architecture, majestic pianos, and picturesque landscapes. Looking at that really lifts your spirit up. Admit it, you've already started Googling where to order these stickers. Medieval warriors. We bet that you at least once wondered how soldiers of ancient times managed to fight the enemy, ride a horse, and show miracles of dexterity in such massive armor. We don't even want to think about how much it weighed. Also, the bulky armor probably limited the mobility of the wearer. Yes, it seems logical, but this is actually not the case. In fact, many types of knight armor were incredibly flexible. Take a look at these sabatons, the boots used by the European military for centuries. These shoes are divided into many segments to ensure maximum mobility. This was true for the rest of the armor as well. Share in the comments if you already knew this. Bizarre invention. Honestly, we can't even imagine how the creator of this device came up with its concept. Perhaps such an unusual contraption can only be invented in a dream or a state of altered consciousness. Nevertheless, the device proved to be quite popular. Thousands of people from around the world are already ordering it from Amazon. Oh yeah, just in case, let's clarify. This is a squirrel feeder that can turn a curious animal into a funny unicorn for a couple of seconds. Brilliant, isn't it? Miracle of nature. You have probably at least once heard the immortal hit song of the British musician Sting called Desert Rose. But did you know that it's not just some kind of metaphor, but a real phenomenon? Yes, we're talking about a special mineral that's born in the desert and looks like the most popular flower in the world. Such bizarre formations form in layers of sand when heavy precipitations fall over a usually arid region. The water is instantly absorbed into the sand and gypsum is washed out. The gypsum quickly evaporates and then crystallizes. This is how a unique miracle of nature is born. Real rosebuds right in the middle of a lifeless desert. Isn't it poetic? It's impossible not to feel inspired. Flying blades. Flying a helicopter is a challenging job. Not everyone can handle it, but this pilot's story is so extraordinary that it surprised even his experienced colleagues. He attached a huge 19-foot saw to the helicopter. And this is not a script for a horror movie. In the United States, tree branches are sometimes cut this way to avoid damaging the power lines. Such a bizarre device consists of 10 sharp blades. They're attached to the helicopter with a strong rope about 100 feet long and do their job swiftly. You may ask, what's stopping people from doing the same without using a helicopter? It's simple. It's impossible to approach these trees on the ground. Lifehack for a gardener. Well, there must be some kind of mistake here. What could be more ridiculous than a shovel with holes? Why would anyone need this? Well, believe us, it all depends on the situation. If you try to use this shovel on clay soil, you'll understand that it's many times better than a usual one. The holes prevent the soil from sticking to the shovel blade, which is why it helps you work way faster. What a paradox. Fancy bed. We all sleep in different ways. Someone likes to fall asleep in a huge king-size bed alone, and someone would be satisfied with an ordinary mattress on the floor. Well, you haven't seen anything like that yet. Take a look. This bed is made entirely of paper. Yeah, you heard right. The huge advantage of this bed is that you can assemble it really quickly, so you get not only a bed, but also a sofa with an ottoman to boot. This bed only costs a little more than $500. It can only withstand up to 220 pounds though, and so far is only available in Japan. Vintage shopping list. About 10 years ago, we went to the grocery store with a paper list and a pen. Today, of course, almost no one does this anymore. After all, you can create a checklist on any smartphone. But in the late 19th and early 20th century, housewives preferred these metal devices. You couldn't change the items on it, and the only way to check the purchased stuff was to flip an arrow. It's amazing how quickly technology develops and our habits change, but the grocery list remains almost the same throughout the centuries. Live portraits. It seems that the portrait of Dorian Gray could exist in real life and not be a figment of imagination of the famous writer Oscar Wilde. The Spanish artist Sergi Cardenas can do similar paintings. Over his career, he's developed a unique technique. In his case, the age of people on his portraits doesn't change over time. It depends on the viewer's angle of view. This is what it looks like. You look to the left and you see a beautiful young face. When you move, you see the same person, but 40 years older, or even an animal. How is this possible? The secret is that Cardenas creates oil paintings by painting on vertical strips on both sides. First he does it with a pencil, and only then with oil. The center of the painting still looks convincing, not like some kind of glitch in the Matrix. One last thing too. Cardenas started to make these unique works at the age of 30 and never studied the technique professionally. We admit that it's impossible to believe it. The magic of physics. If you've always been fascinated by Hermione's favorite spell, Wingardium Leviosa, then we have good news for you. Levitation is not as impossible in the Muggle world as it seemed at first glance. There is acoustic levitation. It works thanks to a sound wave. A couple of years ago, British scientists even managed to lift a polystyrene ball into the air thanks to this method. In the future, many researchers hope to use acoustic levitation in various industries, where crystal clear parts and minimal contact with them during assembly are essential. For example, in the production of electronics. In theory, using this method, even a person can be lifted into the air. There are only a few issues left to solve though. Turns out the long sound waves, which are best suited for such experiments, cause very unpleasant physical sensations in a person. Customized clouds. How to make an outdoor event unforgettable? Well, you can launch fireworks, but it's dangerous and expensive. The same goes for different flashlights and other gizmos, and ordinary balloons are too boring and harmful to the environment. But there is an alternative. There's an interesting company, Smile Clouds, in the USA, which offers real, customized clouds. To make them, they use an eco-friendly mixture of soapy water, nitrogen, and helium. You can create shapes of any size and shape, and they can fly many miles across the endless sky. Isn't it original? Controlled lighting. Oh wow, what's this? Did Poseidon descend from Olympus and decide to show off his abilities in controlling the natural elements? Well, everything is a little more prosaic and can be easily explained by the laws of physics. In this video, you see a transparent acrylic cylinder and a high-energy particle accelerator. It generates an electrical discharge of several million volts. Electrons travel with lightning speed inside the material, but they face an obstacle because acrylic is a dielectric. That is, it doesn't conduct electricity well. Therefore, the particles start to slow down. As a result, it looks like a mini lightning in a cylinder, which also leaves behind fancy crack patterns. Looks like a real work of nature, right? Fantastic invention. At the Burning Man Festival, a dream destination for many creative people from all over the world, there are no boring people. Most visitors are in one way or another fond of creativity, which means that they showcase their personality in every possible way, be it visually or through their actions. However, the engineer Mark Ellis from the USA really stood out, even in such a crowd of bright personalities. He arrived at one of the festivals in a wheelchair he made himself. Diesel punk is alive. Barista's trick. There's nothing worse than grabbing your favorite coffee on the way to work and burning your hand on the run because of a hot cup. And the most annoying thing is that these cardboard sleeves often don't help at all. Well, take a look at a curious thing they came up with in the United States. This is a holder made of an unusual material that grows in size when exposed to high temperatures and effectively protects your hands from burns. Sounds promising, but still looks a bit creepy. Ink-propelled leaf. One can watch this video countless times, and you most likely will not solve the mystery behind it anyway, unless of course you have a perfect understanding of the laws of physics. Actually, there's nothing really complicated here. A small amount of ink was dropped on the piece of paper. It quickly spread through the water and created a very high surface tension. This is what makes the leaf move so chaotically and creates such bizarre patterns. The same effect can be achieved if you use petroleum products or tar, though we don't advise you to do this. Take care of nature. Hey buddy, are you tired of watching videos about cute animals and heartwarming stories? You need something more serious in your life. Tough cars, cool robots, and the most unusual gadgets in the world. Get the high-tech adrenaline rush you need on TechZone. Subscribe now. We are waiting for you.